Well, here I am live. I have no control, so whoever's watching, just understand that I'm working in the blind. Today, we're talking with LearningZen about FranCamp and everything else. Coming up next. I don't know what you're trying to do to me there, Charles.
It was at a lot for words, Doug and Cassandra. Good to see you guys again. FranCamp coming up next week. You're some of my favorite people to see there. And we talking to clients all the time. If there's one product or service that someone needs, LearningZen always comes up. So guys, we're going to have a fun conversation.
The problem with your statement is you've said that to every guest that we've had.
No, I have. First of all, there's only one company called LearningZen. And I have not said that if you watch all my videos.
All right, so we're going to change this up. Forget about the topics. We're going to get right to the point. That's how I like to roll. So whoever wants to go first, there's someone watching this right now. Tell me the problem that you solve for me as a franchisor.
I think more than any, I'm going to jump in first. I'm probably going to always jump in first. So Cassie, you might have to slow me down occasionally. But what it comes down to is, at the end of the day, I think, franchising is so much about consistency and providing an opportunity to small business owners, and many small business owners that are coming into franchising didn't necessarily have a background in business, right? And so when you're sort of investing it all, putting everything you have into a small business concept, your mind is thinking, well, I just bought a business in a box. This is going to be easy. I'm going to be printing cash soon. And the reality is there's a lot of training and upfront training that needs to go in for not only just the owners, but also so that the staff are following brand standards. And so really what we're solving at the end of the day is the consistency challenge that all the brands struggle with.
So who are you solving this for? Like typically who's saying I have this problem internally, and how are you addressing this with them?
Yeah. So most often it's going to be somebody on the operations side of things, right? And it's typically a franchise brand that's, grown to the point where they can't physically be at all of the locations anymore. So there's a dispersion problem, right? They're too far away from every location. And what they're realizing is it's not just training. We can't just throw technology at something. It's a whole entire ecosystem, right? So you've got, the training that happens in person. You've got the training that happens online via webinars and things like that. You have the LMS training, and then you have coaches that are out there supporting individual units as well. And so more often than not, we work with the operations team, or if they are large enough, they might also have a training team at that point.
Okay. So I agree that it's a tremendous issue. The second part of this, which I want your solve on it, is engagement. Like I'm gonna oversimplify this. Like if I think about trying to think of something that I've tried fixing the house. I'm not very good at fixing things, but whatever it is, if I have to fix something in the house, I go to YouTube, watch the YouTube video, push pause, keep watching it to get it right. The problem with my statement is it always happens after something broke. And in franchising, if they don't understand the foundation of the business until something breaks, it's usually too late. But then comes the engagement part, because you build all these systems and processes and training materials. Do franchisees engage with it when it's not broken, or do they wait till it's broken? And how do you measure it?
Yeah, and I think that the measurement is actually really the key thing there. When it comes to, franchisees or franchisors, like engaging with material, it's a challenge for every brand that's out there, because what they can't do at the end of the day is buy a learning management system, create amazing content, really great training videos, maybe like you said, Nick, where they can pause it along the way and sort of do the next step, step by step. But I think at the end of the day, the engagement part is the realization that people at the home office on the operations and training, learning and development side of things, they need to be checking in. So when coaches are going out to visit with franchisees, they can run a series of reports and find out, maybe what this unit is struggling with. And when you can lay those over some financial numbers as well and say, okay, well, they're struggling with their sales numbers. Well, have they taken all of the upselling and cross-selling courses? And to be able to truly measure that with the training versus the financials, I think is the story that you're looking to tell at the end.
Doug, is the problem more franchisor or franchisee? Meaning, on the legal end, I'll have the conversation comes up, franchisee's not compliant. And now there's different levels. We have very large national brands and emerging brands. And I see diversity of situations where sometimes it's the franchisor lacking the structure and not prodding the franchisees and not creating the framework. And we see that especially in the emerging end. So how do you effectively communicate this to franchisors in the sense that what are some signs and guideposts? If you're doing these things, you're on the right track. But if you're not, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Cass, you look like you wanted to jump in here. Come on.
Yeah. I would say the biggest green flag, if you will, for a franchisor concept is when they train their franchisees. We always want to jump in and train the staff immediately, thinking about each task that they'll be doing. But the brands that also create training specifically for the franchisees on how to run their business and how to be a successful, brand owner of a location are the brands that always succeed the most in our system.
Can you, off the top of your head, hopefully one that you can disclose, is there a brand that you're like, okay, these guys do it well, and we can see that engagement going all the way down?
Now you're asking me to pick favorites, Nick.
Not a favorite, just one that you're impressed with.
No, I actually have a really great story about that. We did just bring on a really large brand, and they had been utilizing 2 separate LMSs because of the pain points that they had been dealing with, and we were able to bring them on to LearningZen, and that's Mighty Auto. And it's a really large brand, a lot of units, and they absolutely embrace, training their franchisees and their staff, and they even have content for their contractors as well. So they have gone all in and honestly built out content that is really engaging and really well done. But in their first month, having them all under one roof and one platform now, they were able to increase their engagement versus the same month last year of 107%. So,
yeah, I think that's a newer client, right? The fascinating data point, which if I'm betting on the impact of reconfiguring training for a system should have impact to unit sales. And I'm sure you have the data point in-house. Like for us, if I was like client X is like, well, how many leads did you get for the other brand? I'm like, well, I can tell you that number, but they might have different volumes. They might have different leadership. They might have different product. They might have a different place in the marketplace. It's not going to be apples to apples. In your world, like defined training drives sales. And so I'm sure you have situations where you came in and you fixed it, and now you can see that their sales volume is increasing because the staff is more intelligent in the way that they're delivering whatever product or service to the customer, right?
Yeah, I think back to there was sort of like an explosion. I mean, it was a while back now. Maybe it was like 6 or 7 years ago where Freddy's Frozen Custard started going bananas. And we were really proud of the fact that we were working with them really early on. They built great materials and they really, grew at a really fast pace. But I think the commonality that we're seeing with both what happened with Freddy's and what you're seeing with Mighty is they've got a champion, right? Like they're making an investment, right? They're not thinking of this as an expense. They're like, let's make an investment in our owners, because at the end of the day, happy owners are going to be much more likely to buy another unit, to refer you to someone else. Happier locations means employees that stay longer, because when we talk about that, when we think about expenses a lot, we think about like turnover expenses are insane. We could actually put a an ROI calculator on the LearningZen site that just kind of talks about the turnover costs. And if you're sitting there with 100 units and each unit's got 10 employees and you're paying them $18 an hour, $17 an hour, and they've got 50% turnover, that's $51,000 per unit that you're spending. And at 100 units, that's $5.1 million. If you really want to get some money back, in your budget and see the profits grow, I think the investment in training speaks for itself when we take a look at, okay, if we can get our employees to stay longer, they're better at their jobs. They're going to create more revenue. They're going to have a better work environment. And so it's just investing in your people at the end of the day.
Out of curiosity, on any of the training materials with any of the brands that you work with, are they training at all what franchising is to employees? Because that's going to be the future of their franchisees.
Some are, but not all for sure, right? But yeah, you see it with the ones who have, grown and scaled at a rate where they've got, I always say, just measuring somebody by how they're scaling doesn't truly measure the success. It's, are they scaling with happy franchisees? And the franchisees are happy because they're making money at the end of the day. And I think that's a big part of it. I probably didn't answer your question at all there, Nick.
Not that you didn't answer it. It's more like here. Let me give you another twist on it. I remember IFA did a study years ago where they were trying to understand what the general population knew about franchising.
Yeah.
And people that even worked at McDonald's said, I work for McDonald's corporate. So if there was an issue with their paycheck, they didn't call the franchisee. Their assumption was, I worked for McDonald's corporate. And to the general population, they thought the McDonald's in your market was not owned by an individual. And so it was a chain. And so chain was this word. And so I say that because the general foundation of what franchising is, for an employee to understand that some human being did put their life savings behind this business, is also training.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of it. And it's one of the things we always talk about is incorporating culture into your training. And so understanding the founder story matters in the training. The employees understand that this is a small business owner that might have literally leveraged everything they had to start this, I think is an important story for the employees to know. And the opportunity for that to be mixed into your training it's everywhere if you want it to be. As long as you've got this kind of information, your founder story, that B-roll can go into lots of different training videos to, just kind of simply remind them.
Doug, on the retention and profitability, what are the missing gaps with employees on the training where LearningZen comes in and you're seeing improvement or a difference in what's going on?
Charles, will you rephrase that again? What are the gaps?
I mean, no. So employees, right? And as a lawyer, I always worry about joint employer, all that other stuff. Will not bore anyone with it. Leave it aside, right? But we understand turnover is a problem. We understand unit economics are going to go down. Franchisee owner's not going to know it, but it's bad service, inconsistent service, right? All of those things. And it's so easy to overlook it. So you come in what is the low-hanging fruit where simple changes create big positive results?
Oh, yeah, what a great question. Love the rephrasing there.
Me too.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of obvious ones. Customer service, right? If a brand wants to win today, everything's expensive, right? You go to take a family of 4 to 5 guys, you're dropping close to $100. And so customer service has to be really good because you need to get, loyal customers that time over time and again. And so there's so many easy wins in customer service. And then also, I think, just from an upselling and cross-selling standpoint, realizing that we're not trying to make a check bigger. We're trying to improve the guest experience or the homeowner's experience or that senior's experience when we're offering these additional things. We're not just trying to increase the ticket price, increase our potential tip. And so I think those are really low-hanging fruit things that every brand can focus on and create world-class customer experience at the franchisee level as well. So it's a big commitment from the franchisee and the franchisor there. But I think you can make a difference quickly there.
And I can
That's what I miss.
on that a little bit. I would say another way that they kind of fall down sometimes is just forgetting to continue training. You know, it's really important that it's not a one and done, that as your business evolves, you continue investing in your team. It gives them that sense of being a part of the team and important, that you're investing in them and their success. But, you know, just making sure that they also understand the why. We can tell them the how over and over again, but if you don't tell them the why, then they don't take ownership in you know, the actual task.
Especially our 16 to 22-year-olds, like just telling them to mop the floor is going to be a fiasco of result. You need to tell them why we're doing it and how to actually, what are the steps involved in that. And I think
Can you pull up that video of teaching a 16-year-old how to mop the floor? I would like to see that.
Well, because at the end of the day, you're not just training employees, right? You're kind of protecting the brand experience.
Of course.
And you're trusting your brand to a 16-year-old. It's their first job ever. Many of them, right? And if this is their first job ever, we've got to make sure that they're really well trained, because they're representing your brand and they're representing every other franchisee of your same brand.
Out of all the videos that or training materials that you've created, is there a category that is has the highest engagement? It's not going to be mopping the floors. Is there something that you see as a consistency across all the businesses, that this is the most highest engaged thing that franchisees want to learn?
I think definitely sales. They struggle with the sales component sometimes. So anything that helps the employees do a better job at kind of selling. The other one is honestly, like, it's a weird one, but it's like, how do we handle a disgruntled customer? Like, so somebody's upset with their food or they got charged the wrong thing. And it's one of those things where, you know, if you're 16 years old, like that, having to have that conflict with another, you know, adult over their meal is really scary for them. And so that's a good way for them to get a little bit more comfortable with it and practice it and see it in action.
Okay, so the reason I asked, because I go back to the beginning of this, I said, talk about the problem that you solve for franchise brands. And then you said operations usually makes the decision. In my opinion, what you just said, sales should be trained by the franchise sales team, because that's your sales team. Yeah. And customer service reputation should be trained by marketing, because that's reputation management. And so the reality is, you just talked about two departments that should be looking at this and saying it should impact my budgets because I'm able to impact, and this is my contribution to a franchise organization. But it probably isn't, because it defaults back to operations, and operations isn't going to give a shit the way that other departments should about the two things that you just said are the top trained videos.
I think the challenge is that a lot of, you know, sales and marketing teams don't have people that understand learning and development. They understand sales, they understand marketing, but they don't understand how adults learn. And that's what you do get in the operations side of team.
Maybe that's the fundamental problem with franchise business, is we're talking about silos and we're talking about a lack of education at the franchisor level. So like, I can't sell franchises. Well, if you actually go through learning and development to actually understand how to sell franchises, maybe you actually could communicate with the franchisee and explain the value proposition of everything that you're talking about. But I think that's where it's obviously, like, if you micro it down to the problem that you solve, it's very, very clear. You're giving, this is not to minimize the value of your product, but you're giving the check mark to operations and training to say, yes, we do have this, and look, it's in this compartment. Like, it's a check mark, when it should be the ongoing education should be at the forefront of how an organization is actually building traction for their business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's so much more collaborative now. It can be, right, because of the tools that are available. So if you have subject matter experts in any of those silos, it's so easy to get them to share that knowledge now and disperse it inside of your training content. Creating content's never been easier.
Okay, so going back to the beginning, just for clarity, you said like the brand has to be, I mean, I would argue that a one unit brand should be putting this in place on day one, but who you're solving this for right now currently with LearningZen is operations professionals who you have to have some size or scale as a business.
You don't necessarily have to, because if you can invest in this earlier, that would be better. It's when they usually come to us is when they reach a capacity problem, is usually when they're reaching out. Because early on, when you've got a couple of units, you can handle the training and the education with a couple of units. But when you start to get 4, 5, 6, they're in different, states at that point, or certainly different cities that are not easy to drive to. That becomes a real challenge with consistency. And the other thing with consistency is, you have different people training in a lot of situations, right? And so if somebody asked the 4 of us to explain how to fix Nick's washing machine, we'd all describe it 4 different ways. And that can also, affect the consistency side of things.
Go ahead, Charles, bring us home.
Yeah. Today on Thursdays, we have our team transactional meeting, which is a training meeting, last year as we're evaluating AI sales opportunities. And we had our annual meeting. It was ironic because all the technology initiatives going on, and we're building out our internal AI systems and all this other stuff. What appears to us is the biggest opportunity is the human connection and outperforming the competition at a human level.
Yeah.
And that the most important thing isn't the big service we deliver, but it's those phone calls where someone on the team is super qualified and gives an answer that someone's looking for, and then takes it a step further. And then that person feels confident in their job, sees opportunity, training, growth opportunity on that level. I mean, it's so foundational. And then I think about, I'm giving this advice to franchisors, and I'm like, I'm struggling with it, right? And we're a small organization, and every week we're doing our Thursday meetings. It's on different education topics. We're recording them, building knowledge base. But as you guys are talking, the consistency, and as I'm looking at the website for LearningZen, right, in terms of, monitoring engagement and training, and, that becomes a big part of it, because while I think we made a big step forward, it's not institutionalized yet. And so I think I need to think about my own business and talk to you when you come to FranCamp.
I think you mentioned some things that really hit for us, though, as well, is, being able to get a problem solved from a person is a wildly important thing. So, we often market ourselves as a boutique company because we're so hands-on with the support that we give. So it's kind of unique, but we actually support every franchisor, every franchisee, and every staff member. And we answer our phones, right? And so we'd never want somebody to be kind of hung up on a problem inside of the system, because that's really frustrating. We don't want them to have to submit a ticket and wait 24 hours. And so we truly try to partner with people that we want to work with and want to create a long-term relationship with, because they all have access to my cell phone. They can call or text me at any time, but when they call support, someone picks up that phone and answers their problem really quickly. And I think that hands-on side of things, being able to bounce things off of us, like, hey, what's been successful with other brands as far as the training materials that they've built? What would you guys advise we do here? Should we protect this and make it just for franchisees? Make sure we keep them, in joint employer compliance and things like that, which is all built into the platform, but sometimes they don't understand that unless they're having conversations with us. And so we try to make ourselves really approachable to the clients, and that has been a really good recipe for us. I mean, we know every client by first name. It's sort of wild that we do, but if Cassie tells me that Lynn called, I know what brand that is. Yeah.
You must not have a lot of uniqueness in first names.
You'd be surprised. There are a couple of doozies out there.
Richards? Are Richards still around?
A lot of Daves. You can't just say Dave. We get into trouble with Daves for sure.
They have the same first name. They just get a fun nickname with it.
Oh boy, let's not go there.
You're talking to a guy with 3 first names. I'm Doug Scott Mark here. You know what I mean? No one calls. I get called Mark way more than I do get called Doug.
That's unfortunate. And then you should hand them your business card and say, I can train you on how to be human.
Active listening training right there, right?
Yeah. Doug, Cassie, as we wrap up, and next week looking forward to seeing you guys at Fran Camp. It's always great seeing you there, and have a great time and a ton of great content. In terms of LearningZen and brands that are out there, what's the difference between the brands that just check the box and say they have LearningZen or they have an LMS?
Yeah.
And guys, I don't see it making a big difference, to the ones that are saying this just drove our unit profitability through the roof. What's the difference in advice for everyone who's going to be watching this? And of course, when we meet up at Fran Camp.
Well, for me, it's the brands that are really successful at this. They have a champion, and that champion is fully invested on making sure that all of the franchisees and their staff have what they need. And it comes with an engaged champion. It's the most important thing. Somebody who's buying, and we've had both sides, as you can imagine, right? Plenty of people have bought LearningZen, checked off a checkbox because it was something that they said they were going to deliver in their FDD. But those are the ones who are going to have trouble scaling. They're going to have trouble getting engagement. It's the one with a real champion on their team. So they've made an investment. They brought somebody in to say, hey, this person is over learning and development, and we need them to be engaged. And that means communication is open with the people who are doing the initial onboarding and the coaches, as well as the franchisees. Wow. Cass, what do you think, Cass?
I would say also the brands that are aware of their learner personalities, if you will, and have developed training to all of those personalities. We got to keep in mind that we sometimes train younger people, older people, and in between, right? And so making sure your training is engaging for all of your personalities within your organization.
Meet the learners where they're at. You're not building training content for yourself. You're building it for your owners and their staff. And if their staff wants to learn by watching a 90-second TikTok video, then deliver 90-second TikTok style videos, right? Like, you got to meet them where they're at, or they're not going to engage and use it. Quick question. Can anybody hear the scratching in the back? I realize it sounds like we've got several Wolverines going on, but they're just the dogs right now. And it sounds like they're trying to get in.
We don't. We think
you're good. Hear it. And
secondly, you're hallucinating.
Yeah. Secondly, why would you disclose that you've locked someone in your basement on a that seems silly.
I actually
talk about the game. Yep.
I love you the champion part, because now you just hit me in the head, which is we don't have one here. And when we're in our L10 meetings, why don't we have a metric on our learning and training and team enrichment? All right, guys, that was actually some good advice. Look forward to seeing you at Fran Camp next week. Appreciate everything you guys do. And I am going to actually, I need to make our training and learning a part of our traction goals and everything we're doing here. Nick is actually making fun of me. Everyone who's watching this, thanks for joining. Doug, Cassie, look forward to seeing you guys next week.
You too. Thank you, guys.
Sure, guys.